Golf has always thrived on rivalries. Arnold Palmer versus Jack Nicklaus defined an era. Tiger Woods versus Phil Mickelson pushed the sport into mainstream culture. But today, golf has a new battle, one that feels bigger than just trophies or rankings. At the heart of it are two men who could not be more different: Bryson DeChambeau, the mad scientist, who rebuilt his body and his game to overpower golf courses with physics and raw strength, and Rory McIlroy, the elegant ball striker who has become not only the face of the PGA Tour, but also the voice defending the soul of the sport. Their clash isn't just about who can win on Sunday afternoons. It's about philosophy. It's about tradition versus disruption. And more than anything, it's about the future of golf itself. When these two collide, it isn't just golf anymore, it's theater. It's tension. It's a Cold War played out across fairways and press conferences, with millions of fans choosing sides. This rivalry didn't begin with shouting matches or heated press conferences. It started quietly, in the background, when Bryson DeChambeau began making headlines not just for playing golf, but for trying to completely reinvent it. Rory McIlroy had already built a legacy as one of the most naturally gifted golfers in history. His swing was art in motion, his balance and rhythm admired by purists who believed golf was about precision, not brute force. Bryson saw things differently. To him, golf was a problem to be solved with data, equations, and speed. When his experiments began to work, when his drives were flying over bunkers and turning par fives into pitch and putts, Rory and others started paying attention. Was this golf, or was this something else entirely? That question created a quiet friction between the two. Bryson wasn't just another competitor. He was a disruptor, and Rory, whether he liked it or not, became the face of resistance. That philosophical divide became the first spark in a rivalry that has only grown hotter with time. The 2020 season changed everything. When Bryson emerged from lockdown, he didn't just look different. He looked like a completely new athlete. He had packed on muscle, transformed his swing, and was suddenly hitting drives that defied belief. Courses designed to test the best players in the world were suddenly being overpowered, reduced to practice ranges by his 350-yard bombs. The golf world was stunned. Some praised him as a visionary, others condemned him as a threat to the very fabric of the game. Rory, who had long been one of the tour's longest hitters, admitted something remarkable. He tried to chase Bryson's distance, and it threw him completely off. His timing, his rhythm, his mechanics, all disrupted by the temptation to hit it just a little farther. That one admission showed how deeply Bryson had gotten under Rory's skin. For Rory, golf was always about artistry and balance. For Bryson, it was math and muscle. And when those worlds clashed, the game itself felt like it was being pulled in two very different directions. If Rory and Bryson had managed to keep things professional, the media made sure fans saw it differently. Every quote Rory gave about not chasing numbers was turned into a veiled jab at Bryson. Every Bryson explanation about physics and biomechanics was framed as arrogance. Suddenly, headlines weren't just about who won tournaments. They were about the philosophical battle between golf's traditional artist and its bold scientist. Bryson leaned into his reputation, giving long, technical interviews that both fascinated and irritated fans. Rory, by contrast, kept his remarks sharp and simple, often interpreted as dismissive. The contrast was irresistible. Analysts on TV debated whether Bryson was saving or ruining golf. Fans argued online about who was right. Before long, Bryson versus Rory wasn't just another competitive storyline. It was the biggest narrative in golf, amplified and exaggerated by every camera, every microphone, and every headline. The Ryder Cup gave their rivalry its most explosive stage yet. Representing opposite sides, Bryson for the US and Rory for Europe, their contrasting styles became symbols of national pride. Bryson's booming drives electrified American crowds, each one greeted like a firework. Rory's grit and clutch putting fueled Europe, each fist pump a rallying cry. But beyond the scoreboards, something else was happening. Fans weren't just watching the US against Europe. They were watching Bryson versus Rory. Every stare, every celebration, every putt felt magnified by the undercurrent of their tension. And while they weren't always paired directly against each other, their presence in the same competition elevated the atmosphere. The Ryder Cup is always fiery, but with Bryson and Rory involved, it felt volcanic, like their personal rivalry had become a proxy war for the future of golf. The rivalry reached a new level of intensity when Bryson defected to LIV Golf. It was no longer just about style or swing philosophy. Now, it was about loyalty and identity. Bryson embraced LIV's bold new format, its massive paydays, and its challenge to golf's traditional order. Rory, meanwhile, became the loudest voice defending the PGA Tour. He wasn't just critical of LIV, he attacked it relentlessly, calling it harmful to the traditions of golf. In press conferences, Rory's frustration was palpable. Bryson, in turn, defended his decision, framing it as best for his career and family. The split wasn't just professional, it became ideological. Every tournament, every interview, every public comment became part of a larger battle. Bryson wasn't just a golfer anymore, he was a symbol of disruption. Rory wasn't just a competitor, he was the guardian of golf's legacy. Their rivalry had evolved into a global conflict, with every fan forced to choose a side. What makes a rivalry legendary isn't just what happens on the course. It's what happens among the fans. And Bryson versus Rory divided the golf world like never before. Bryson's supporters loved his swagger, his analytical brain, his willingness to break every mold in pursuit of victory. To them, he was fearless, the man dragging golf into the modern age. Rory's faithful saw him as golf's conscience, the player who put integrity over money and tradition over spectacle. Tournaments featuring both men had atmospheres more like boxing matches than golf events. Fans didn't just cheer, they screamed, booed, heckled, and argued endlessly online. Bryson versus Rory wasn't just a storyline. It was a movement, a culture clash. And for golf, a sport often accused of being too quiet or too polite, this was a new kind of energy that made the rivalry impossible to ignore. Numbers have always mattered in golf, but with Bryson and Rory, they became weapons in a war of ideologies. Bryson built his identity on stats, his club head speed, his ball speed, his launch angles. Every time he hit a new milestone, it became proof of his revolution. Rory, meanwhile, pointed to different numbers: consistency, greens in regulation, strokes gained, and performances under major pressure. Analysts and fans pored over spreadsheets and charts, debating endlessly. Was Bryson's raw distance truly unbeatable, or was Rory's artistry more reliable when it mattered most? Each tournament added new data, each press conference new talking points. This wasn't just golf anymore. It was statistical warfare, with Bryson and Rory standing as generals on opposite sides of a battlefield defined by numbers. Before we go any further, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss stories like this. We dive deep into the drama, the rivalries, and the untold moments that make golf more than just a game. If you're enjoying this breakdown of Bryson versus Rory, subscribing helps us bring you even more golf content every single week. Beyond the stats and the swings, what makes this rivalry magnetic is their personalities. Bryson is polarizing by nature. Some love his eccentricity, his passion for science, and his refusal to conform. Others see arrogance, obsession, and a player disconnected from the human side of the sport. Rory is the opposite. He's emotional, relatable, and brutally honest. Fans cry with him when he breaks down, and cheer with him when he triumphs. Put them together, and you have the perfect clash of archetypes. The eccentric scientist against the emotional hero. Every interview, every press conference, every time they're paired together, the tension is visible. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's icy, but it's always there. And fans, whether they love or hate them, can't stop watching. At the core of this rivalry lies a single massive question. What is golf going to become? Bryson represents change. A future where science, power, and speed dominate the game. A future where tradition is secondary to innovation. Rory represents preservation. A world where artistry, balance, and integrity are more important than raw stats. Every round they play feels like a referendum on the sport itself. Fans debate not just who played better, but what their performances mean for the future of golf. This isn't just a rivalry between two men. It's a battle for the soul of the game. And until one side proves definitively stronger, the tension will continue to grow. And then came the Masters, the moment that brought their rivalry to its coldest chapter yet. Rory McIlroy and Bryson DeChambeau were paired together, walking side by side for hours on golf's most hallowed stage. And yet, according to Bryson himself, Rory didn't say a single word to him. Not once. After the round, Bryson admitted, almost bewildered, that there had been total silence. When asked, Rory's response was blunt. I wasn't there to be his best mate. I was there to win. For fans, that silence was deafening. It was icy. It felt personal. Rory's refusal to speak wasn't just a mental strategy, it was a message. A message that this rivalry had crossed a line. It wasn't just professional anymore. It was something deeper, sharper, colder. And it left fans wondering what their next encounter will bring. Because sometimes silence says more than any words ever could. Bryson versus Rory isn't just another golf rivalry. It's a clash of worlds. Power versus precision. Science versus artistry. Disruption versus tradition. And it's happening not just in tournaments, but in interviews, in press conferences, in the very way fans see the sport. Rory's icy silence at Augusta proved that this rivalry isn't cooling down. It's only getting colder. And for golf fans, that's exactly what makes it so compelling. Because rivalries like this don't just shape tournaments. They shape history.